G'day travellers, I'm Lyall and that's the child bride behind the camera. Say g'day Trish.
Hi.
If you own a caravan, there's a chance that it's a bit like ours. 20 foot, this is an Eden track van with a couple of batteries and a solar panel. Trish and I run a whole lot of electrical cameras and stuff, and we needed an inverter to power some of this stuff. So this is the story of the processes we went through to select an inverter that was just right for us. First of all, a bit of a disclaimer, the inverter that we've chosen was loaned to us so we can make this movie. At the end of that, we have the option, if we wish to keep it, we can pay for it. We're just going to show you what we did. Anyway, come inside and I'll show you the stuff that Trish and I have to charge while we're on the road. Come on. Caravan. This is the stuff that we have to power while we're on the road. We've got 2 iPhones, a professional camera, and I'm talking to a multi-$1,000 camera which chews batteries, and a light on top which chews batteries. This is the little tiny inverter we used to run my CPAP machine from. We've got a range of smaller cameras, backup, didn't mean to drop that, backup cameras, and because I'm nearly 80, I have a CPAP machine. And if you're having trouble sleeping and somebody complains that you're snoring, you might need to think about one of these things. That's a positive airway thing to keep the air running up into your nostrils all night so you get a decent night's sleep. Now that runs on 240 as well. Not everybody's going to run all this stuff, but you've probably picked up now that Trish and I spend a whole heap of time away from van parks. We manage van parks, but when we go bush, we like to go bush. No power, we run off the solar panels, off the batteries, but we've got to charge all this stuff. Particularly that, and particularly this big 17-inch monster of a laptop. And that's the one that made us change our minds and put an inverter in this. You see, for years we've had caravans with full-time inverter charges. Never had to worry about it. 240 coming out of the sides all the time. This one didn't. Most vans these days, the bars, I suppose over half, are like this. 75 to 80,000. This was 76,000. But they come with 2 batteries or 1 and a couple of solar panels and no inverter, so no 240 volts. And that suits most people. If you're going to go plugging into caravan parks every night, that's absolutely perfect. We don't do that. So we needed to do something different. So being a cheapskate, I bought a little 300 watt inverter, pure sine wave inverter. Don't buy anything other than the pure sine wave. That was all right for powering my CPAP machine and charging a few batteries and things. But when I plugged this monster in it, this thing's got 2 hard drives and several fans. It said go away, not interested. It just wouldn't run it, blow the fuses. So we had to make a decision about what to buy, and that involved doing a whole lot of research, which we'll share with you right now. Welcome back. Here's our dilemma in selecting the right inverter for our purposes, and you may find the same thing. They draw from your batteries. If you've got 1 battery, you'll probably be struggling to run too much through an inverter. We have 2 batteries, and the size is they're 135 amp hours each. That's a reasonable size battery. They're AGMs, this is not lithium. We've got 2 of those, so we've got about 270 amp hours. Now that gives us enough to live pretty comfortably without using all this stuff. We spend days and days and days away from power. But you can only use half of what's in those batteries. Once they get down to 50%, you're risking damaging them. So that's one thing you've got to be mindful of. So the more batteries and more battery power you have, the longer you can go without power. If you use the power, and if you turn a kettle on, if you've got a big enough inverter, if you turn a kettle on, that's going to take a lot out of the batteries. Now that's got to go back. And unless you've got a great heap of sun coming on your solar panels, that's going to take a long, long time to go back. We're careful, but today the sun's not really bright, so we'd have a little bit of a struggle today. But if we've got enough to get by. And what we aren't going to use, this is what you need to think about. We spend a lot of our time in the bush, as you've heard. We don't need an electric kettle. We got one for when we plug into caravan parks. What else don't we? We don't need a fry pan. We don't need those electric hot plates. We use a small gas oven. We use the oven on the or the stove here sometimes. We don't cook inside, we use a little tiny stove outside. So we're pretty independent without using a toaster. You can run a small toaster. But they're all going to use a fair bit of power. So for that reason, that ruled out a 3,000 watt for us. We didn't want to use that extra power of a 3,000 watt, and the cost, they're a lot dearer. We could have gone, no, listen, before we go there, so we've decided we'll go to a 2,000 watt. That's going to provide everything we need. We won't be able to boil the kettle with it because the kettle's 2,000 watts. Probably do the toaster, and that's about it. But there's two things you've got to know about, or two types of inverters you've got to be knowing about. One is that they're a pure sine wave. Now the power that comes out of your house is pure sine wave. That's safe for all your electronics. And the sine wave, if you see it on an oscilloscope or a TV screen, the wave that the power does is beautiful and smooth like that. The other one is a cheaper version, and it's called a modified sine wave, and the wavelength is sort of square like that. And I can tell you from our experience that doesn't work very well, and you can damage some of your electronic equipment, really damage. So there's the first choice, is pure sine wave, and our second choice is a 2,000 watt. Now we have to decide on how much we're going to spend and what brand. We've worked out that we're going to go to about a 2,000 watt inverter, which will power most of our stuff. Now the thing we need to think about now, are the quality, the warranty, and in what price range we're going to put this thing. So I guess we're somewhere in the mid-range. So you can buy the El Cheapos for 150 bucks, that little one I showed you before, that little fellow, that was about 150 bucks. And incidentally, of all the Chinese brands that I know of, that's a Guiandel. That one doesn't have too many bad remarks, and it did work for us. At the other end, in our Spinifex and our Kedron, we had those fully automatic monster 70 amp chargers, and the 1600 watt inverter integrated in one. Those things, they're about $2,500. They're magic. If you're going to get a van built, I'd recommend that you ask for one of those. But if you're in the situation like we are, we need to add one. So ours has to have a remote on it, so we can turn it on and off. We can put it away quietly somewhere. Prices, $100 up to $2,500. And if you want to go to some of the full kits that come with batteries as well, you're up to around $10,000. So Trish and I settled on about $600. So we reckon that. So we did a whole heap of research on the internet to find out just that sort of inverter. Mid-range, about $600, robust, without any complaints or bugger all complaints about them. And we started to find that this word kick-ass kept coming back up, and they're selling a whole range of stuff. And because of the brand name, I thought, oh, well, I'm not going to look at that stuff. And then it kept coming up, and I didn't see any complaints. So I thought, well, maybe we'll have a look at that. So would you believe that just a short drive from our place is a kick-ass depot? So the child bride and I had a quick look out there. We went out there and we met a couple of the girls, and they showed us around. And we met Tiali and Amy. And they showed us around and met us, very friendly, competent young ladies, and showed us around with the range of stuff that they had. And I was pretty impressed with the range and the way these girls knew their stuff. So the child bride and I thanked them, went away, and we came back a couple of weeks later, and we were absolutely amazed at the reception we received. We hadn't been there for a couple of weeks. So you just hang around, watch the next bit of a movie, and you'll see the reception we received. And you'll probably receive a reception like that too. Hey, gee whiz, here's me unpacking and you walk in. What happened to the arm, kid?
This is what working at Kick-Ass does to you.
Oh, mate, they're brutal on you, but gee, they did well to get you. Yeah. Do you mind if we take a couple of movies in here this afternoon?
Yeah,
you okay 100%.
With that? Let's do it. Kick-Ass way.
And we'll put you in some of them? Is that okay?
Maybe. We'll have to see. Might need to do some makeup first.
That's right. All right, kid. We'll pack up and we go in.
Amazing. Sounds good.
Thanks, darling.
Catch
you. Bye. This looks like the Kick-Ass place, darling.
It does too.
Let's see what they've got in there for an inverter, eh?
Okay.
Come on, let's go. Hey, you look like an Amy, I can tell.
Good morning.
I'm Lyall, and this is Trish.
Hi, Amy. How are you?
We've got a caravan, and we're looking for an inverter to power cameras and things like that. What can you do? Help us with?
We've got a range of inverters here. I can take you over and show you them if
We've
you
got
like.
monsters and little ones and middle ones.
Yes, definitely.
Show the way, girl.
Okay,
we're
no worries,
interested.
let's
This
go.
is where you keep all your inverters?
This is our range of inverters over here. We've got everything from 700 watt up to 3000.
That's the 3000 monster at the back.
It is the monster, yes.
We've got a caravan. We don't want to boil a kettle.
Okay.
We don't need to run a big toaster. All we need is a charger and maybe a little toaster and all our batteries and things. What would
Excellent.
you recommend?
I would probably go with the 2000 watt inverter, which is this one
That's
here.
up in there?
Yes, that should have enough power in there to run most smaller items like CPAP machines and.
It'll do a CPAP machine.
Yes.
That's handy because
Yep.
I have to have a CPAP
Yep.
machine. Now, we want to hide that away underneath a seat so it's not visible all the time, but we want to be able to turn it on and off. What can we do about that? You've got a
We
remote?
actually include a remote with our inverters as well, so they come through like this, and the display will come up on
Oh,
your
it's got the
screen.
display on all. Oh, this
Yeah.
one's plugged in.
Yes.
So it's drawing
ready to
14
roll.
volts now, and I can see it's putting out 244.
Yeah, 244.
Oh, and you can see the amperage draw and all that sort of stuff. Okay.
You can, and your life of your battery as well, so it gives you a bit of an indication on how much power is still in your batteries.
Okay. What sort of a warranty comes with those, Amy?
They come with a 2-year warranty as well.
2 years?
Yes.
That's full replacement or...
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
And they're in stock? You've got some in stock now?
We have some in stock, yes.
And the price is?
The price for the 2000 watt is $549.
$549.
Yeah.
And it weighs what? I'm guessing about 5 or 6 kilograms?
Yep.
Okay. So that sounds like that must be pretty much what we need. We don't really need the 3000, which is going to draw more power
Yes, and also take up more space.
and take up more space.
Yes.
Okay, that sounds like the one
Excellent.
that we'll go with.
Okay, no worries.
Thanks for your advice, mate. We'll be back to pick it up later on.
Okay, excellent.
Thanks, Amy.
No
See you,
worries.
darling.
Thanks, love.
Bye.
Bye, Trish.
Darling, look what I got. Our kick-ass 2000 watt inverters turned up. We got some freebies, don't know what they are, but we'll have a look at those in a minute. You want to look in there, I suppose?
You're right. Okay.
All right, that's our next job, eh?
Okay.
Well, here it is. Our new 2000 watt kick-ass inverter has just arrived. And what do you want to do as soon as the thing turns up? You want to look inside. But before we go any further, came with a couple of freebies. I suspect these are torches, and they are. And they're pretty handy looking devices with a whole range of light outputs. That's not too bad. We didn't order those, they just turned up. So there's a bigger one there. So, without any further ado, let's have a look in here. Cut. Now we're going to stop again. Before we pull this apart, there's a reason we bought this, because we've got a mid-range caravan that needed an upgrade in the power supply. We needed 240 to run our cameras and all that sort of stuff, and a CPAP machine because I have a bit of a breathing problem, and our little 400 watt wasn't doing it. We chose a mid-range one. This is about $500, $600. It's 2000 watts, it'll power most things in the caravan. It's of good quality. There's very few complaints. I haven't found any complaints about these things, and there's some features about it that I rather like, and I'll show you when we get into it. Okay, first of all, it's about 6.5 kilograms, so you need to think about the weights in your caravan. We've just come back from a trip and we were 20 kilograms under, so we've been a bit less under if we'd had this, but the convenience comes with a little kick-ass ad, but that's good, that's good. And we've got a manual, which is in, I've taken the liberty of having a look at it, and it's very easily readable. A box on the top, which contains some pretty substantial cables for delivering the power to it. They're very short run. We've taken the liberty of ordering some really, really thick ones because we've got about a 2 or 3 metre run to our van, so we've got cables as thick as your finger. They're lying in there now. They'll be installed tomorrow along with this by a professional. That's your power cable, so we won't be using those. There's a fuse in there. These things are internally fused. Let's get all the other stuff out. There's one thing about this thing that really excites me. It's got a dial on the front of it that tells you exactly how much power you're using and how much you're putting out. And it comes with a remote control panel. And that's the remote control panel. Everything you need to do to turn it on, to see how much it's using, how your batteries are shaping up and all that sort of stuff. There's one of those actually built into the machine. We're going to install it under a seat so it's out of the way. But there's a cable. It comes with a cable that's about 5 meters long, which you can install this up on the wall. And that's exactly what we're going to do. Put it on the wall and run this underneath the seat in the caravan. So that's got both the ends out. That's a case for it. But this is the interesting bit. This is a pretty substantial piece of equipment. Let's dump that down there. We'll get a bit serious about where we put this. There we go. Take that off. It's well packaged. If you're going to get this delivered by mail or courier, this thing is substantially and well packaged. Now to get rid of this box, this plastic casing, and there it is. It's solid, it's metal, aluminium with some sort of composite ends. There's your dial built in. We won't need to use that one, but you can. And we're just going to plug in the remote one and put it remotely on the wall so we can turn it off and on. We don't want to leave the thing running the whole time because that draws just a bit while they sit at idle. So we can turn it off and on from there. That's the feature that Trish and I liked. There's two 240 volt outlets. There's a switch that says it's a rocker switch. It'll tell you whether you're using 1 or 2 or it's off or on. I'll need to find out exactly more about that. There's a USB port, and at the other end, 2 rather giant fans to keep the thing cool. So we've set this up so that any air that comes in, we've put vents on either side of our boxing, but you'll see that tomorrow, and the fans draw from near the vents. And the substantial bolts at the end there where you can secure your power in from the 12 volts. The 240 volt part of this, because it's underneath the bed, we're going to have a 240 volt electrician take power from one of these and put it to a power point outside the seat boxing in the caravan. And then there's going to be another cable which is going to allow us to put 240 volts all the way through the caravan, so it comes out through all the 240 volt outlets. Not that we're going to use 2000 watts. All we need to do is charge the cameras, use my CPAP machine, charge all the phones, all that sort of stuff. Well, that's the unboxing, and if you could feel this thing, you'd be as impressed as I am. It weighs, like I said, the whole outfit weighs about 6 kilograms, but it's substantial, and I'm rather looking forward to having a thing installed in the van and testing it. And we'll report back to you on how well it went, eh? Catch you down the road somewhere. No, we'll catch you tomorrow. Well, good morning. This is the next stage of the installation of our kick-ass 2000 watt inverter into our 20-foot van. You've heard of us talking about our little 20-foot Eden caravan. Well, today's the day the inverter goes in there. The inverter draws its power from 2 batteries under there. I've already installed some cables. They're not terminated. I've run them up through the floor and in under the seat. Today a 12 volt Sparky is going to turn up and he's going to terminate those. He's going to find a little device in there called a shunt which measures the power that comes in and out of these batteries. He'll have to connect it to that and then connect it to the inverter. But let's go for a walk through the van and I'll show you what I've done so far so you can just get a bigger picture of what's going on. Up in through the front door. A bit awkward with this giant camera, but we'll make it work. Right, we're inside, and that's a shot down the length of our 20-foot Eden caravan. Let's show you what we're using right now. I've got a little 300 watt inverter here that's powered through the switchboard. It's all it can do to power the few things we have. It will not run my laptop, but it does power my CPAP machine and a few other small things, but it's been handy. But now it's time to put this giant 2000 watt inverter, and this is where it's going, underneath the lounge chair in the dining room, and it's going to go in here, and I've mounted some boards along there, some cabling to come out from there. I've got the cables in there already. They're not terminated to the other end, but they'll be connected to the inverter, which is mounted there. To keep it cool, we've enabled a supply of air. You can see I've got a vent over there, and there's another vent in the back there, and there's another one snookered around here somewhere. So the inverter's going to go in there. Well, here's my cabling install. You can see the cable has come up through a hole I've cut in the floor. I tell you what, that's a bit hard to do when it's your pride and joy, but we did it. I did the same thing when I put this diesel heater in. All works. You just seal them off properly. So that's got painted, that's sealed, and we'll put silicone on when the install's done. That cabling runs underneath there and comes out up here with the inverters to be installed, and the Sparky will connect onto that. Well, here's the finished job. The young fella's just gone. He didn't want to appear on camera, but he's done a very good job. The two batteries are reconnected with much heavier cabling. It's just the same standard that we ran up to the inverter. It's all passed through the shunt, which goes up to the battery meter up above and indicates just how much current we've used and are using. And this is replaces the fuse. It's a circuit breaker. If the current draws too much, that just opens circuits, and we can reset it again without worrying about melted fuses. So that's this end of it. Now we'll take you inside and just show you. It's still a bit open in there, but we'll show you what's happening inside. Well, this is the result we've been looking for all day. The 12 volt Sparky he's installed our kick-ass 2000 watt inverter under the seat in the caravan. We've run a cable with 240 out to a junction power box on the that's just tacked on there for the time being. The switch on the wall with the remote dial is installed, and we've tested it, and it all works. I've turned the toaster on, and it doesn't make much noise. You can only just hear the fans, and we've checked our battery meter, and we're drawing 75 amps at that. We've got 120, 30 amp hours spare, so we can run this thing for an hour and still be able to charge it back up the next day. Not that we're going to run a toaster for an hour, it's just for a couple of minutes if you need to do things. But mostly it's to charge our batteries and run our computers and all that sort of stuff. Well, there's the first phase of the install done. The second one is to get a 240 volt Sparky to wire so this 240 comes out all the points in the caravan. But I'll report back to you when we do that. Anyway, thanks for watching along. Hope you've learned something from it. Enjoy yourself. G'day and welcome back. Well, this little snippet sort of wraps up everything we've done so far. We did the consideration of what we'd want, the price we wanted to pay, how much we wanted to run with it, and now we've had it installed. We've done a test, and you can see some of the clips are running on the computer, which is being powered by the inverter under my seat. And I can tell it's running, and it's still got 12.5 volts in the battery, and there's 240 volts coming out. And I can't hear a thing. That fan is next to silent when the seat's back on it. So that's all we need to do at this stage. It's functional. The next thing is to take it out and test it to see how much life we can get out of it when we're actually using it in the field. Now, early in the piece I showed you a small torch. Well, this afternoon to do this shot I forgot to bring my movie light. Well, I cracked out the big one, the big torch that Carly gave me, and now it's acting as my movie light. So I'll bugger my lighting up a bit. That's the torch I'm running, now that light, and that's acting as my movie light. So that's a pretty practical gift. Now just get the light right. So you can see that if you go and see the girls at Kick Arts, you'll get all the right advice. You'll probably get yourself a damn good machine that's going to suit you exactly. And you might even score a torch like that you can use. Anyway, until we've gone out and tested this in the next week or so, we're going to go bush in the caravan, and then we'll report back to you just how the thing went in an extended trial. Catch you out there somewhere, eh? Cheers, see ya!